Don't you just love that feeling of when you get out of a hot shower and the bathroom's all steamy and you go to open the door because you forgot your underwear in your dresser drawer, and you open that door and all that cold air comes flowing in and hits your naked body? Man, it's an interesting feeling. Oh man. Typically, I when I hop in the shower, I always forget my underwear, and the wife will hear the shower turn on, and she'll run to the dresser and grab me a pair and throw them in the bathroom for me, because I'm a spoiled little shit like that. But today, the wife's actually working right now, so jumped in the shower, completely forgot to grab underwear, and had to go out into the cold. And it wasn't that bad of a feeling, man. Going from hot to cold, it's not bad. It's basically like the feeling when you go from a hot tub and you jump in a cold pool. But anyway, that's not the topic I wanted to talk about today. The topic I wanted to talk about was breastfeeding. And just kind of give my take on breastfeeding as a whole, and my views on breastfeeding in public. Now, before we get into this, I want everybody to understand that I do have 2 children, little children, and both my children were breastfed. We didn't do any of the formula stuff. Straight boob their entire lives. And so I want to kind of talk about our experience, seeing the way people talk about it on social media, the back and forth debates that I've seen people have about it. And it's a hot topic. It's a hot button topic for sure. And to the point where I even had other moms who, my guy friends' wives, that would tag me in these debates because they knew where I stood and they always wanted me to help defend. But I got to a point where it was just like, it gets old. I'm tired of having that same talk with the same type of people that aren't budging, and they have their views, and I share a little bit of my views because, again, I'm all for breastfeeding, but I do have my limits, and we'll get into it. So the first thing I want to cover about breastfeeding is a lot of parents, and if you're a new parent and you're questioning this, let me also just start out by saying this. Parent to the best of your abilities. Do not allow others to bring you down and talk shit and talk bad about your parenting. We're all out. There's no written manual on how to raise a proper kid. We do the best we can, and you're gonna fuck up. You're gonna make bad decisions, and that's okay. It's part of growing as a parent. It's part of growing as a human being. So to be around other judgy parents, don't even mind it, man. There's a few people in my life that I grew up with, that I'm good friends with, and their wives' views and my views don't really match. And so I find myself not hanging around those individuals a lot. And it's not fair to my guy friends, and I apologize for that. But the way that their wives view certain things, and some of my guy friends too, some that don't even have kids, and now they see me with kids, and they're surrounded by kids, and they wanna try to like tell me how to parent. Again, there's a difference between suggesting things and then just being very judgmental and saying, well, if you do it that way, you're dumb, type of mentality. So I just want to get that out there. If you're a new parent, dude, do the best you can. It's hard. No one said it was going to be easy. You took this avenue, and good luck. And I wish the best for you guys. Honestly, because it's a learning process. Everybody's going to parent a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, I think we can all agree on that. We just want to give our kids the best opportunities and the best learning experiences as possible, and we want to instill good, valuable morals as well. Something that I think our society is losing. But I digress. Let's get back on the topic of breastfeeding. So the first thing I want to talk about is age. I've seen a lot of debating about, well, even new parents just asking questions. Well, when should I wean my child off of breast milk? When is it not appropriate? I hate when they use that word too. When is it not appropriate for my child to continue to breastfeed? Like, when do we hit that line? And for that, I feel like when parents ask that, they're more worried about the social construct of it and the social backlash of it than actually focusing on their child. What do I mean by that? Well, I have a 4-year-old and I have a 1.5-year-old. And I clearly remember having a discussion with another parent in person where she was basically condemning parents who were still breastfeeding their children at 5 years old. Is it a little weird? Yeah, it could be, depending on how you view it. During this conversation, though, she basically went from being a nurturing mother, feeding their child, to now sexualizing the boob, which kind of threw me off because I'm like, well, it is weird that a 5-year-old is still wanting boob, but at the same time, that parent and that child have an understanding of why that child may still want that boob. Now, coming from a parent who, again, my daughter's 4 years old, we just recently, within the last couple of weeks, last month or so, started weaning my daughter off of boob. Now, she is about 4.5. She'll be 5 in, oh Lord, I think April. Yeah, April. I always get my son and my daughter's months mixed. One's in June or July, June, and the other one's in April. But I think my daughter's in April. So she'll be turning 5 in April. So we're a little late to the game as far as weaning her off the boob. But with my daughter, it's different. The boob means something different to her than it does my son. My son's a year and a half old, and for him, it's nourishment. He eats off of it. Like, that's his food. Among other things, when he's not feeling like right now, he's teething really bad, and he's behind on his teething, so it's hitting him really, really hard right now. His molars are coming in the back parts of he's a mess right now. So not only does the boob help him in calming him down, but he also uses it for nutritional reasons. He uses it for comfort reasons. When he has a fever, when he's warm, he's very clingy to his mother. And he wants boob, and it helps calm his fevers and helps calm his little sticky sweats. But it's just overall, the boob is everything for him. Whereas my daughter, now that she's older, it's not so much a source of nutrition. It's not so much a food factor. It's more of a bonding comfort thing for her. If my daughter is feeling unsure about a situation, or she has some type of mild anxiety about something, she tends to want boob. If we're in a weird situation or unfamiliar situation in a public setting, she tends to kind of gravitate towards mommy, like, can I have boob? It's a I'm unsure coping mechanism. It's at nighttime, when I want to lay down and cuddle and go to sleep. It's how I wind down and fall asleep. But like I said, we were able to wean her off of it. So what we basically did was, and it's funny because doing it, we've realized that now she's really starting to blossom as a daddy's girl. She's always kind of been a daddy's girl, but now it's starting to show even more. So what we did is we basically moved the beds around. So, and this is another thing that some parents may not agree with, but and I was kind of against it when I was when we first had my daughter. But now both our kids sleep with us. Some doctors will tell you not to allow your kids to sleep with you, and other parents will also tell you, they need independence and to be in their own bed. At the end of the day, we wanted our kids to be comfortable and feel safe. That was our reason for it. So our kids sleep with us. And like I said, I've grown to the idea. I like cuddling with my kids. I cuddle with my dogs in my bed, so why not my kiddos? You know what I mean? And again, I became a very light sleeper once I had kids. So just having them in bed with me is not only a comfort thing for them, but it's a comfort thing for me, knowing that they're right there, knowing that in the middle of night, if anything happens, somebody breaks into my home, I know where my kiddos are. I'm not having to run across the house to their room to make sure they're okay. If something happens, we're hunkered down in our bedroom, and I'm locked and loaded, and I'm waiting for the intruder to come into the room and make his grave mistake of coming into the wolf den, so to speak. Whereas if they're in other parts of the house, daddy's got to play hero, and things could go south pretty quickly. So yeah, that's my outlook on that right now. But how we weaned her off of the boob was basically moving the bed around. So originally we bought a crib that's like a 4-piece, that I guess is what it's called, or I don't, it grows with your child. So it starts out as a crib, and you can slowly turn it into a bed and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we did. Is we took one of the walls off of it, so it's kind of like it looks like a day bed almost. It's got the backgrounding of a crib, but it's open. The front's open, so you can crawl in and out of it. And so for the longest time, we had that bed up against the wall with the open front facing our bed, and then we pushed our bed up against it, so it's basically one giant bed. So she could sleep on her bed, but still have access to us. So she would sleep on it, and then basically my wife, without getting like too graphic, my wife is well endowed with her feeding tools. She was able to lay sideways and just kind of, I don't want to say flop, but I can't think of another word. Just basically lay it over onto my daughter's side of the bed, so she was able to have her boob but still be sleeping on her bed. And then we gradually upgraded her from that to, we moved the bed around. So now her crib is on my side of the bed, and we moved the dog over to the wife's side of the bed, because he slept on the floor next to me. Now he's on the other side, which he's uncomfortable with, but he's got to deal with it. And now my daughter's on my side of the bed. So now she gets to cuddle with daddy. And typically now that's something we're trying to break her out of, as far as sleeping in the bed with us. We're trying to get her to sleep in her bed. She still, in the middle of the night, will creep up and lay on my bed. But again, it's a cuddle thing. It's a comfort thing. It's a feeling safe thing. She doesn't ask for boob now as much. She now will, when we're watching TV and whatnot, I'm kind of training her to lay in her bed while we're awake. Once we go to sleep, if she wants to kind of crawl up and lay with me, she can. And then once she falls asleep, I just kind of slide her over to her bed. But yeah, 4 years old and she was still on boob. She didn't really do it in public often. I don't even think I remember her really asking too much. A lot of times if she was feeling uncomfortable, she'll ask mom, and she'll tell her, "Not right now, baby girl." And then daddy would jump in, and I would kind of comfort her and help her out with any kind of little anxiety she'd have with, new places, new people, which again wasn't often. My kid's she's very outgoing, so she loves being out. She loves meeting new people, but every now and then, there's a dark energy that may come around with somebody, and kids are very, I believe kids are very kind of adapt to that. They can sense that, and that's when my daughter would kind of pull back. And so, for my son, like I said, he's 1.5, and he uses it more for nutritional purposes and just all around. He has, that's his life right now. That's his lifeline. But even then with the wife, I talked to the wife about it, and she wants to try to wean him off a little bit earlier than we did with our daughter. One, just because he has a better appetite than my daughter does. He's not picky at all, really, that I think about it, when it comes to food. Whereas my daughter, she did really well when she was younger, and then as she's gotten a little bit older, she's kind of pulled back. It's a little harder to find food that she eats. Although I think in correlation, I think the boob had a lot to do with that too, because now I'm thinking about it. Now that she's gone almost I want to say a month without boob, and her appetite has really picked up. She's eating really good now. I think what a lot of it was is maybe she was feeding a little bit at night, and so she was kind of holding out for it. Could be, I don't know. But at the end of the day, the wife's been, you figure 4 years with the little girl, and then if my son, say we wean him off at 3, you're looking at 7 years straight that my wife has been breastfeeding. So it takes a lot out of her. So yeah, that's one of our main reasons to get him off of that, is just because we want to do it early, because to give mommy a break. And two, again, it's just one of those things where it's like, we know how to do it now. We were able to wean the girl off, or my daughter, the girl. We were able to wean my daughter off that way. So we maybe try to do that with my son, and just try it a little bit earlier. But for the parents out there that still have their kids breastfeeding later in life, I'm not judging you. Again, I may think it's a little odd, but I understand. Like I said, do you? No one knows your child better than you. So having people judge you, who cares? You raise your kids the way you want to raise them, plain and simple. And if it's not hurting the child, I don't see the problem with it. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand with that. My daughter had a rough time getting off of it. We were able to get her off of it. We're gonna do the same with our son. Now we kind of know what to deal with, and we kind of have a game plan now, I guess. So hopefully we can get him off around like 3 years old or so. A little bit sooner than that, I'm even for it too, just because he's already showing signs of, as far as like eating, he's very independent with his eating. That dude shovels all kinds of crap in his mouth. He loves to eat. And anytime I make dinner and we sit down and eat, he knows when it's time to eat, and he runs straight to his mom and he's ready to go. So if anything, I think right now the Boob is more for kind of what his sister was using it for. It's a comfort factor. He's slowly getting into that. So weaning him might be a little bit easier. So with that being said, the other issue that I see a lot of people have with breastfeeding, and let me stop real quick and just say, if you hear my dog munching, I'm sorry. This asshole always decides to eat when I want to do a freaking episode, and he's doing it right now. So my apologies if you hear crunching in the background. I try to make him sit down because I gave him food earlier, and now he didn't want to eat it. Now he wants to eat it. So my apologies. But anyway, back to what I was saying. The other hot topic that I see a lot with breastfeeding is the whole breastfeeding in public situation. And how I feel about that, if we're just cut and dry, my answer is I don't have an issue with breastfeeding in public. I don't. My wife would do it with my daughter. She does it with my son. And this whole we'll cover them up and bullshit like that. A lot of kids don't like to be covered up. Both my kids don't like being covered up. Even when they sleep, they wake up if the blanket goes over their head. They don't like it. So I don't agree with people who have to throw that in and be like, well, just cover up. No, like it has nothing to do with the woman wanting to flash their titties at you. Like, they're feeding their child. And if you can't comprehend that and can't understand that, then sorry, but it's going to happen. And if anything, I see that majority of the time, I've never encountered this. I've never encountered it. And my wife has never encountered it because the majority of the time, if she has to breastfeed in public, I'm there. She doesn't feel good about going out in public without me to begin with, let alone go out to a store or something without me, and she has the kids. She gets very anxious if she has to go somewhere without me and she has the kiddos. And a lot of that has to do with just like the kidnappings and all that stuff. She feels a lot safer knowing that her husband's there, that her husband's carrying, and that if anything happens, the situation is going to be dealt with in a manner of I see fit. But anyway, when it comes to the breastfeeding, if my wife ever needed to feed, like I said, I don't see a problem with it. But at the same time, me and the wife both tried to go about it in I don't want to say mature manner because I don't want people to feel like I'm saying that if you breastfeed in public, you're immature. But we try to take steps we make plans. We make a strategy about what we're planning on doing that day. So if we know we're going to go out and we're going to do a little bit of shopping and we're going to go out to eat and we have a day planned, typically we try to make our kids and prepare them for those events. Now, doesn't mean that it's going to go the way we planned. But if I know we're going somewhere, if we're going to go to Target or Walmart or something like that, typically I'll be like, hey, can you feed them real quick before we go? That way on the ride there, they're chill. When we get into the store, they're chill. We don't have those problems. But again, kids are goofy, and we're on their time. They don't understand the social constructs of a society. So I'm hungry now, damn it, feed me. And that's what people need to understand, is that when you see a woman pop their boob out to feed their child, they're not popping their boob out for you and your perverted eyes to look at. They're in mommy mode. They're not thinking about the tool bags checking out their boobs. They're thinking about, my child's crying, my child's upset, my child's hungry, and I'm going to do my motherly duties and feed my child. And as a father, I try to help. I remember one time we were Walmart, and my mom had to stop at the pharmacy. Now, we had already been out most of the day. We went to eat and everything like that. On the way home, my mom was like, "Hey, can you stop at Walmart real quick? I got to pick up some prescriptions." I said, "Sure, why not? Like, we can get out, we'll walk with you and everything." So we went with her, and when we were trying to get the prescriptions, we were standing in the line waiting, and it just so happened, this was when my daughter was little. We didn't have my son yet, and she started getting cranky. Well, we had been out all day, and she hadn't. I mean, she ate a little bit of food at the table when we were eating, like mashed potatoes and stuff, but she didn't have any real substance. So she started getting cranky, and I told the wife, I was like, "Hey, man, I think she's hungry." So the wife sat down, and there was like a little bench there by the pharmacy. So I just told her, I was like, "Just take a seat there." I grabbed that basket, and I took out the kid's blanket, and just so we don't offend any precious little people walking around, I took the kid's blanket, I just kind of held it up like a curtain, and then the wife was able to breastfeed in peace. Now, the funny thing is that we still took steps to cover up, to make it not as obvious, which I feel that me standing there with a blanket as a wall kind of blocking them, I feel like I made more of a hey, look at what we're doing over here, then if my wife would have just breastfed. Like, the irony of it, I think, is what made me kind of chuckle about it. But also look, I was just, I love watching my kid feed, but at the same time, I was just kind of looking around. When I'm in a public setting, I'm always watching my surroundings. So that's what I'm doing. I'm watching, I'm looking around, I'm keeping an eye on people. Not because I'm like trying to get anybody's attention, like, "Oh, look what we're doing." But again, it's just, it's the same thing. Reason why when I go to a restaurant, I like to sit in the far back of the restaurant with my back to the wall so I can see the entire restaurant. I want to know where all the exits are. Any gentlemen listening to this will completely understand where I'm coming from. And then you women out there that are gun owners will also probably know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing. And I just happened to notice an older lady who looked like she probably doesn't have kids. She looked like a cat lady. She owns probably 15 cats, never had a kid in her life. This look of disgust on her face. Now, I could have called her out, but I was like, I don't want to be a bully. But I could just see, even taking the steps to try to make it as less visible as possible to the public eye, you're still going to get people who are going to make snide comments, who are going to have that look of disgust on their face. It's just, some people are goofy. So just understand that. And to the women out there who are hesitant or shy or scared to feed their children in public, I'm telling you, don't do it. Because your child's hungry, and that's what they're for. Don't let people bully you, and don't let people devalue what you're doing. You're being a good mother, and you're feeding your child. Plain and simple. Now, where my opinion kind of tends to sway a little bit is social media. Now, hear me out. I get the whole beauty and the art that is breastfeeding. I get it. I do feel that some mothers, though, try to push the envelope a little bit. And I feel like that's, with most things people believe, you're always going to have those individuals that take it a little bit too far. They want to push the envelope, almost daring you to say something so they can burn you at the stake. I'm all for breastfeeding. I'm all for breastfeeding in public. What I don't typically agree with are moms taking pictures of them breastfeeding their children and posting it on social media. My wife never did it. My wife always thought it was silly. Because again, for us, breastfeeding in public wasn't a statement. It was a necessity. It was we're in this situation. We're in a public setting. My kid's hungry, and we're gonna feed our kid. I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm not trying to say anything. We're focused on feeding our child. And at home, when the child wants boob, they get it. So with that being said, taking a picture, both me and the wife agree it's goofy. And the people are like, oh, but it's beautiful. It's da, da, da. I understand. I get it. I enjoy watching my kids breastfeed. But again, I'm their father. It's beautiful to me. And yes, seeing other children nurse with their mothers, it's a beautiful thing. But I also feel that it is still, it's a personal thing. You know what I mean? When you're at home and you're watching your wife feed your children, it's cool to see. It's a feeling I can't explain. You have to have kids to kind of get it, and I hate to play that card, but it's just, honestly, it's how I feel in general. Like, even when I make food and I feed my children homemade meal, something that I made from scratch, that I put my heart and my soul into and my love into, watching them eat, as a parent, it feels good. So like, for me, having a mom and a baby, having that bonding experience, and then taking a picture of that bonding experience and putting it on the internet so everybody else can see it, I feel, and I know people are going to hate me for this, but I feel like it is a look at me type of thing. You know what I mean? And for me, like, again, I'm not telling you not to do it. We just personally steered away from that. And I don't remember exactly. I think, I may be wrong, but I think a family member did want a picture of the babies one time, and we were telling them that we were breastfeeding, and they were like, I don't care, send it anyway. And we still waited. Like, we waited till we were done. There's nothing against the family member. Again, it's just, it's a time for mom and baby to bond. It's a very personal thing. And again, like I said, in public, it happens. We have to do it, you know. But even then, in those moments, you know, my kids locked eyes with my wife, and they never broke that eye contact. It's a bonding experience with between them, and I don't want to interrupt. And I feel that taking a picture or taking a video of that is very intrusive. Now, to the women who don't have a problem with that, by all means. Women who want to you view those pictures as women empowerment, by all means. Like I said, I'm not saying you can't take the pictures. All I'm saying is that me personally, my family, me and my wife, and my kids, we just kept that a little bit closer to our hearts. And like I said, the only time the public ever got to see those moments was because we had no other choice. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I stand with that. And like I said, I'm not trying to piss off anybody. I tend to do that a lot, but I'm trying to basically give an insight as a husband, as a father, as a man, my views on it. When I see another lady, you know, breastfeeding in public, I don't stare. I don't even think of the boob sexually. I don't even look at that lady sexually. That lady is doing her duty as a mother. If anything, I look at her like, that's a good mom. She's taking care of her kid. Way to go. And if you're ever breastfeeding in public, understand that not all men are assholes, and not all men are googly eyed and being like, ooh, booby. And there are men out there that will defend you. And the majority of the time, the men that are going to defend you have kids themselves, have wives that breastfeed. So just keep that in mind. Don't be scared. Don't be worried. Fuck what other people are going to think and say about you. And then again, if you're around judgy parents, even if you've been friends for a long time, if they don't see eye to eye with your parenting skills and they're going to constantly talk shit about the way you're parenting, just cut ties with them. It's not worth it. Like I said, it's a learning experience. We're all learning. I'm still learning, man. Like I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing opinions. I mean, I have a 4-year-old that we're still trying to potty train. You know what I mean? And a part of me feels kind of embarrassed about it, but I've talked to other friends, and some of my other friends, like they have kids too that were kind of late to the game. Some of my friends, their kids were potty trained by 2. Some of them are still kind of struggling at 5. It's a learning process, man. All kids are different. We're not like cookie cuttering these kids out and into existence. Everybody has their own personalities, their own characteristics, and everybody has their own learning curve. So like, just keep that in mind. Like, my kid's 4. She still wears pull-ups. She understands the idea of using the potty, but she's kind of lazy when it comes to it. You know what I mean? So I have a kid that, like, when she's at grandma's house, she tells grandma when she has to go potty. But there's a different kind of comfort here at home where if I'm not on top of her and constantly making her go potty, she'll let it slip, and then she'll lie about it. And so, you know, it's growing pains, man, you know. But again, this is the same little girl that, you know, can draw all kinds of little cute faces. She can count to 20. She knows how to wash dishes. You know, she's 4 years old and she knows how to wash dishes. She helps daddy cook. I mean, she's a very independent individual, and she's very bright and very smart in her own right. There are certain things that she just has trouble with, and every kid's going to have that. There's going to be kids who can probably pick up the potty training thing super fast, but then may have trouble learning the alphabet, may have trouble counting, may have trouble, they're going to have hardships somewhere else. And that's what we have to understand as adults, is that every kid's different. My son's a year and a half, and he's already, he gets very interested in the bathroom. Like, every time I go pee, he walks in there, and I always leave the door ajar because I know he's coming. He pushes the door open, and he walks, and he stands there, and he watches me pee. And he always makes the cutest face. He's like, oh, and he makes this little old face, like, oh, what are you doing, Dad? Like, and he watches what I do, and you know, he's learning that way. So I mean, kids are going to develop at different rates, and as a new parent, if you're a new parent, understand that we're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes, but every kid's different. So what may work for somebody may not work for you. So just keep that in mind. And to you judgy parents out there, even if you've judged me on the way I'm raising my kids through this episode, don't care. I could give 2 shits. Focus on your kids and raise your kids. Now, with that being said, I do also agree with the whole it takes a village. I've mentioned that in other episodes. I do believe that. But again, that's when a kid's crossing the line. When it comes to kids learning and developing, everyone's different. So just keep that in mind. Thanks for listening. This episode's already kind of dragging on a little bit, so I'm going to leave it at that. But thanks for tuning in, and I would love to hear your views. Leave some comments. Let me know how you feel about the whole breastfeeding situation, how you feel about raising kids. You know, where are your kids at? Where were they? How old were they when they were potty trained? How old were they when you weaned them off the boob? Did I help ease anybody as far as, you know, the age and the boob controversy, or the breastfeeding in public controversy? Let me know. I'm always open to discussion, and you know, I'm open to sharing views. That's the whole point, right? And I hate sounding like a broken record, but if you're new to the podcast, I mean, that's what this podcast is about, is to discuss things and have open discussions. So with that being said, join our podcast group on Facebook, the Cognitive Discourse Podcast. If you'd like to send me anything, questions, letters, original music, original stories that you'd like me to read, you can send it to cognitivediscourse@gmail.com. There's no the in the front, just cognitivediscourse@gmail.com. And join this discussion. I really am looking forward to hearing from you guys and hearing your views and your opinions, and continue the discussion. So with that being said, you guys have a great day. Y'all enjoy y'all's weekend, and until next time.